All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, today on Faith Your Fears Friday, right here in the Childlike Faith podcast studios. Yep, you guessed it, you see it. We are out on location. We are here for a wedding in Waco, Texas, right? Baylor Bears, right? Bob will tell you a little bit about that maybe. But here we are, guys. We're on location, and we are excited because today we are going to have Bob Beaudine, right? The author of Two Chairs, come in and share with you guys just whatever he wants to. But to give you guys an idea, because a lot of you are fairly new cool kids to the Cool Kids Club, I want to tell you an idea, right? Childlike faith is all about simply activating, and for some of you older kids, right, reactivating the childlike faith that is inside of you for one reason and one reason only, baby, and that's to live out your childhood dreams in this playground we call life. And it's the whole FuNLiFe community. It's all powered by this guy right here. I don't know if you can see it. Legendary speaker, trainer, motivator, Mr. Ziglar himself, and his proud son, Tom Ziglar, who is my coach in the Choose to Win and See You at the Top programs that we offer our coaching clients. And so without further ado, guys, I'm going to jump right into it and welcome Bob Beaudine to the stage. Bob, thank you for being with us here this morning.
Johnny, hey, so great to be with you. And we've been wanting to do this for a while. Today's the day.
Today's the day, baby. So, Bob, tell us a little bit about yourself. I've kind of given a little bit of insight on who you are, what you do. I've got this bio right here that I wanted to read. And really, you know what? I got so pumped up, I didn't even go to it. But just really fast, I mean, for nothing else, right? Sports Illustrated says that you're the greatest the greatest man you've never heard of, the greatest influence in sports you've never heard of. How does all that even come about?
You know, I think everyone has like a dream early in their life, right? That God puts on their heart that is reminding them who they are. One of the coolest things that I love about the Bible is that before the foundation of the world, God knew each person. And if you know someone, you don't just know of them, but you know them. You're actually friends. You hug, you say hi, you encourage each other. You're constantly what I call, and why I wrote The Power of Who initially it wasn't just about acquaintances. It's about friends, and friends are different than acquaintances. You know, friends help you now, acquaintances wish you well. And so no one could be more of a friend to you than God, and He talk to you about your whole life before the foundation of the world, and then put you in your mom's womb. You forgot him. You had to now remember it. And so the coolest thing now is just like this whole childlike faith is, you're just excited and expectant as a kid would, like, hey, we're going to Waco. Let's get in the car and go. And I'm not packing anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm just ready to go and expect, just like doing a podcast. We don't have a plan. We're going to let God kind of plan our talk and do this. And that's why you're so fantastic. That's why the very first time I met you, we already connected at a level that seemed higher than others. And we just loved each other. And it just is something that, once someone takes a place in your heart, they never leave. And so I grew up with a dream, and I happened to have a dad and a mom that was just, I think I got mine so I could help so many other people in the future with their relationships, with their dads and their moms, because they just encouraged them. And especially how great it is talking on a Father's Day weekend, what a dad can do for a family and how they can all of a sudden make a difference in each person's life. And so, if dads put God into the house, radical things happen with their kids. And my dad did that. And he encouraged me to go for dreams, etc. And so my dad was an executive recruiter, started an executive search business in 1967 out of McKinsey, the whole industry. And I always wondered what the heck he was doing. And all that time he traveled a bunch and I didn't really know it. And I went to SMU and then I got into brand management in Los Angeles. And then one day my dad looked at me and just said, hey, are you tired of going from this step to this step to this step? And I was going to run Cocoa, and then I was going to do Coffee Mate, and then I was going to do the next brand and pet food. And he said, why don't you come use your gift and join it with me. And can you imagine doing business with your dad and watching what he did? And so I grew up with this dream that I would do that, but I had always a dream that you should do what you love and what you're really good at. And so each person who's listening does one thing better than anybody in the world. It's amazing. You're equipped with it, and your friends can see it in you, and they could help you. That's why coaches are so big. That's why everyone should let Johnny like coach, because he can see something in you and help you get to that thing which you love. Because the problem is people aren't doing their thing. 80% of the country are not using their number one talent, and 69% of the country hate their jobs. And so that's 62% of the country are getting divorced as a result, because they're not praying. I mean, you have a less than 1% chance of getting divorced if you pray with your mate before you leave your day. Can you imagine? Less than 1% if you prayed. And if you pray with your kids about their dream, and you talk to them about what they do, and you tell them that you love them and that you're proud of them and that you're giving them your blessing, radical things change. And so my dad did that with me, and I've been in executive search doing presidents of major companies all over across the country, all over the world. We had offices in Chicago, New York, LA, San Francisco, 15 countries in Europe, as you know. And then I turned to my dad one day and said, I should do what I love and what I'm really good at. I mean, that's really kind of questions that you're asking people. So what is it that you love? Because you can't be successful at what you like. You got to love it. It's such a monstrous thought, because you're created to do great and mighty things, but when you like it, you can't sustain it when there's obstacles in your way. But when you love it, I mean, you're saying what like Zig Ziglar used to say, failure's not a person, it's an event. I mean, we're just bouncing past that. So I looked at my dad, to tell a long story short here with one little question. Here's the thing. I looked at my dad and he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, when I do a search for like a president of a manufacturing company, at the end of the search, I get a tour of the plant. But if I did the head of marketing for the NBA now, dang it, Dad, we'd get All-Star Weekend. And so he laughed and he said, has anyone ever done a search in sports? And I said, no. And he said, so interesting. He says, so I said, God put it on my heart that the old way of just one person just getting another person a job and they picking it from big coaches and big presidents of things, then the commissioners and the presidents of teams and NFL and college and everything. You know, that was just a good old boy network. And so search is going to get involved. And so I tell you a thing here is this. So first off, people are listening and they got a thought about what they're dreaming about. And they're not sharing it with the people who love them. They're not sharing it with what I call the people who matter most, who lets them, encourage them, and then gives them things to say, here's 2 things you should do to go get that, right? They got tips. God, you know, we're all a cup short of greatness. With you, I'm great. But without friends, you know, it's like food and water. You can't, you need that, and you need friends to like live a life that you're supposed to do. You can't do this alone. You got to get off the old, you know, the Lone Ranger stuff. And the guy who created the world has a plan, and he gave you the power of the people. And so can you imagine, within 2 days, my opening search was the commissioner of baseball. And so I put in Bud Selig back, you know, 30 some years ago. And since then, you know, what God starts, if you'll show up and keep working hard and do it and do what you're called to do, you know, now we've been blessed to have placed 54 of the 100 Division I athletic directors. We placed 90 coaches. We just placed Deion Sanders, you know, in Colorado. We place presidents of teams and all this stuff. But the reason I love it is not because of any of that. The reason I love it is I can put one person in who can change the entire culture of an organization, make people spend time with their families, do all their stuff, and love and win championships, change everything to a culture of joy. So I mean, I've got the dream job because I get to put people in their dreams. And so that's kind of just all of a sudden just a kind of a brief aspect. Great mom and dad. I wrote The Power of Who through the lens of my dad, which we'll talk about. And then I wrote my book Two Chairs through the lens of my mom.
Wow, Bob. And I tell you, I use both of those books. I've incorporated them both into my coaching practice with our Ziglar Choose to Win program. I call it the fundational program, right? Because I'm all about having fun. And I think too many people have lost that, right? Because when you love what you do so much, right, you'd be willing to do it for free. Do it so well that people will pay you for it, right? And all of that changes because now you said it perfectly. And so the power of who was so instrumental in several of my agents that I've been coaching, because they already know who they need to know to be uber successful. Can you kind of tap into that a little bit?
So in search, I started to recognize something in my first 10 years is that people weren't doing what they want. And in times of like struggles and trouble in people's lives, they won't tell anyone what's happening. In times of jobs where they do it, they're worried they could lose the job they got if they're going to look for anything else. And they don't dream out loud with their wives and their family and et cetera. So I told people, I said, so listen, I was watching, I get 250,000 resumes a year. Dear sir, to whom it may concern, dear recruiter. A dear recruiter, now that's an oxymoron, isn't it? I mean, I don't know you. And so people don't hire resumes. They don't do things with people you don't know. They do it with people you know. And what's the amazing thing is God gave you specific people to help you in your process. And you have underestimated. We've been taught for everything we've been doing. We've spent so much time in our lives. As I look back, doing self-development. And the problem is, this isn't about that. It's, you've been trained in math and English and this, and then you go to college and you're into business subjects and this, and all of improving your skills and all that stuff is excellent. But the number one skill that no one teaches is people skills, loving skills, helping skills. I mean, that's the genius of Zig Ziglar. If you want your dreams to come true, help other people get their dream. I mean, and so what if you were given specific people in your life to help you in ways you never imagined? And what if those people weren't happenstance acquaintances? What if they were strategically given to you, help you find that place in life you always dreamed about? What if we're missing destiny because the world has taught us a wrong system? They've taught us that friends and business are taboo. So let me get this correct. I'm supposed to work with people I don't know and don't trust? I mean, the problem today is that 82% of corporate America does not have a program that promotes friendship. So hold a second. That means 18% do. Why wouldn't they want to do that? Well, because they must not understand that if you had one friend, you're 40% more productive in your company. So people today are stuck. Now, we got to just stop. You're stuck in your company. And the reason is people aren't friends, which allows us to talk and to uplift each other and to get through sick days and communication. It's always been about connection. And when you and I do something together, you have one idea, I make it a little bit better. Then you go, oh my gosh, now I know what it is. And then you make it really good. And then all of a sudden, we're both psyching each other, high-fiving each other, and then we're getting into work earlier. We're all doing the things we really love to do. And now we know what we're really doing and what we're all about. And so the power of who is the biggest idea of possible, because I would have called power of friendship, but everyone's got 5,000 people on Facebook that are best friends. And what I was always talking about, the people who matter in your life. And so we've been taught that our family and our close friends, don't do anything with them because that would be wrong. And corporate makes it like you got to divulge your friends like as if it's evil, right? I mean, because I can't give a contract to you in this. And yet, all my life, all my business, all the things that I've ever gotten is through a friend. One friend who's close. And so if you have 100 friends and I have 100 friends, we don't have 200. We have 10,000. Our friends have friends. Well, we don't have 100. If we had 50, we'd have 2,500. We don't have 50. Think the people who are listening say, I don't have any who. Hold a second. If you had one friend, you're blessed. 3, rich. 12, change the world. Now, this has been around for 2,000 years. Jesus has 12 friends, 3 close, 1 best. Everyone knows his name. And 2,000 years later, he's still signing recruits and still doing deals. You know one person right now who's listening, who's watching. You know one person who knows another person who can introduce you to the deal, the loan, the school your kid's trying to get into, the right doctor to get you into a hospital, the one thing that you needed to change the entire trajectory. It's always been about one thought, one idea, and one friend. And so this power of who, when I really started to show people that you could ask your friends. So, I mean, can you imagine that God himself says, ask, seek, and knock, and I give it to you, but we don't believe him, so why would we believe our friends? So we've got to get back to some basics. And of course, that's what you teach.
Man, I'll tell you, that I'm here in Waco. I don't know any real estate agents. Last night, I jumped on a social media live. I said, hey, who do you know in Waco that I need to know? And boom, today
Right.
I'm fixing to go meet somebody that's going to connect us.
Well, take that point. I write a book. People who are listening are writing books. We don't know anything about writing books. So we write a book and then we finish and we say, who would you pick as an agent? Who would you pick in anything? So I just go out, send a text, right, to 20 of my friends, say, hey, you know, I've been doing this book, The Power of Who. I don't know who to pick. I don't know anybody. Anybody know? I said, what I did was I went into Barnes & Noble and started looking through self-help books and found this person's name. Okay. And all of a sudden, this person's name is like big, and they keep every name of every big person keeps saying this. So I said, do you know this person named Jan Miller? And so all of a sudden, in 10 seconds, my people sent me back and say, hey, 4 of them said, I know her. And I said, wow. I said, then I sent a text again because see, the problem is that you don't get what you want because you, A, don't ask. 2, you ask the wrong people. You ask the wrong who. 3, you're vague. So I ask the next question, because we're not going to be vague. I say, who knows this Jan Miller person better than the others? You all know each other. And then everybody said, hey, this person knows her. And so I call it this person. I call my buddy Keenan and I say, hey, seriously, do you know this person? Where do they live? They live in our town, Bob. They live like 10 miles from you. Get out of here. And he says, listen, I lived with her and her husband for a year when I graduated from college. Hold it a second. Could God be so instrumental in your deal that what you've been doing is going out to a bunch of people you don't know, the evil Mr. Potter in the movie, and It's a Wonderful Life. You've been going out to a bunch of people thinking it's about influencers when it's always been about your friends. But you always were told you couldn't ask your friends. But let me just stop this, and I'm going to ask you a question. You ready, Johnny? Okay, so if you and I are best friends and I asked you for help, would you help me?
Absolutely.
Why would you deny me the same joy of helping you? See, the reason is we don't like to ask our friends, and we've been taught it's incorrect. In the South, in the southern portion of our country, asking people for help is called rude. Seriously. So think about this. There's 2 parts. God, can you imagine the clues that God did? He put this stuff in our head. He put these 2 things in our head that drops endorphins. It's in our brain already. And it drops endorphins and makes you and I euphorically happy. What are the 2 things? Is it position, power, and money? Nope. What is it? Gratitude and giving. Now, interesting. So when you don't let me help you, okay, it's the Jerry Maguire. Help me help you. How can I help you if you don't tell me what it is you want? But if you would let me help you, I get the endorphin drop. And then I get to tell all my kids and my wife and other people that I just got how's your day going? I just had a chance to introduce somebody to something, and then boom, their mind starts thinking, hold it a second, I'm not getting what I'm not doing because I asked nobody. I've been taught that I should just work my way, mind my P's and Q's, keep my head down, don't ask anybody. How's that working for you? That ain't working at all. you're in deep yogurt and you ain't going anywhere in a slow boat. If you do not have a plan for your life, someone has one for you. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a threat. And so that's an enemy attack. And so if you want something right now that you've never had, you're going to have to do some things you've never done. And one of them is I can't even believe I wrote these 2 books. They were like downloads from God when I did them. And one was because I'm in a business. And when you're in your business and you see trouble or some problem, you know what I think? I know what you think. Business, they have a problem and I'm going to solve it, because you're only remembered in life for 2 things: problems you solve, the ones you create. Don't create problems, solve them. What is it that you see? What is it that today you hate? What is it that bugs you? What is time consuming for you? I bet you have a solution. And the answer is, if you make that, do you know what that is? Ka-ching. Now, so God has given you all this thing. He's not a scarcity thinker. He wants you to be very ridiculously successful. He owns the whole world. And he digs you. He calls you his friend. And I wrote 2 books. One, they're both simple. Friends, help you. Okay. And if you'd ask them, they'd really help you. And now we're not talking about people that you don't know, who you call a friend. That's an acquaintance. Acquaintances, the difference between a friend and acquaintances is, do you come over and have barbecue? I mean, what are you thinking about your friend? Are you trying to help your friend? I mean, there's a code of ethics with friends. I do anything for you. You do anything for me. We're trying to help anybody who has I age myself by saying Rolodex, but anybody who I have in my names and contact list, I'd introduce you, but you just have to ask me. And so what most people do is they're never specific. First, they don't ask. Second, they ask the wrong who. And 3, they're vague. They don't ask specific. So they say to me, "Oh, hey, Mr. Beaudine, I want to be in sports." Really? What do you want to be, like a referee? You want to be the water boy? No. I wanted to be the head of marketing for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I said, "Well, that's a little bit better. Who's the person you'd report to?" "Well, I don't know." "Well, hold a second. This is about people. People matter most. Our heart knows it. God taught us. We forgot. So when you do anything for your company, you're doing all this research about everything about your clients, everything about everything. But when it comes to your life, you do no research. You do nothing for you. It's the most amazing thing I ever had. So you don't think your wife has any contacts, and here it is, she has all these friends. You don't think your mom and your dad do. I mean, the biggest mistake is this: your mom and dad aren't doing your job. Okay, they want to introduce you. It's called a gift. I'm going to open a door, and then you get to walk right in and say, "Hey." And so when I tell people, this is such a great thing to kind of segue, is this. So there's 3 things people think when you walk in the room. So if I tell, and it doesn't matter for a deal, a job, whatever it is that you're wanting. And it doesn't matter if you're going to try to get them your first time coaching client, you're going to do anything. There's 3 things that people are thinking about you. So if I tell you the 3 things, it's like me giving you the test answer before the test. And so I've done 44 years of executive recruiting. My dad started the industry before me. I interview and spend time with the best. And so I sit on every interview so I can see what they're asking the questions. I can see how they answer the question. And then I can sit afterwards and say why they liked him and why they didn't like him or her. And so I can see all of it. So we're going to just immediately give a crash course, and we're going to do Cliff Notes. Okay, so here it is. It's amazing. And if you know these 3 things, everything changes. 1, the first thing they think: do I know you? Why are you in my room? If I know their best friend, okay, which all I'd have to do is homework to find out who that was. I'd look on LinkedIn, I'd look around, I'd try to ask, I'd see things you've written, I'd see where you went to school, I'd do anything. Because your life today is in social media and is involved in things that you've written about and all the things about you. And the odds are, if you really want this, God's probably already put people across your path. So they think, do I know you? If I know someone who knows you well, his wife, his sister, or anybody, I have an 87% chance of getting the job versus 13. 87, 13. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm going for 87. And so are you telling me, like, you walk into a room and this is, you don't know more about them than they know about you? I know everything about them. Why? Because that's just good skills. You care about people. I want to know about you. I know about your life. I care about your family. I care about your kids. A way to a man's heart is through his kids. I mean, so simple. Number one, do I know you? Not very hard. Number two, do I like you? Okay, come on. Now, if you talk about the person who introduced you into the room, so I get Tom Ziglar to introduce us. He says to you, Bob Beaudine, you got to know Bob Beaudine. I love him. We leave planet Earth when we talk. He can do this. He's the best in the entire business. There's nobody you should hire more. No one cares about your business more. No one cares about you. And he has 44 years of expertise of putting in people with a demonstrated record of achievement and da-da-da. You're going to say, I want to meet him. And so because he asked you to, because friends tell you that I want to ask, you do it, and I know you. Now all I have to do is talk about Tom Ziglar. So if I introduce you and Tom and you are there, you're going to say that Bob Beaudine's a crazy guy. And so you laugh and they both had fun and you make fun of me and we have this and now you like each other. Do you know where you are now? Is you're at 94% versus 6. Now, have we talked about what you do? I haven't even talked about your skill set yet. Now, I know my friend wouldn't recommend you if it wasn't great. So I've already passed that mentally. The hard part for everyone is a gut feel of, do I like you? Do I know you? Do I trust you? Okay. And so now we go to number 3. Okay. Do you understand my needs? Now, I've already done homework on you, but I'm not going to be the first person to do that. I'm going to let the person who I'm sitting with say, well, this is fantastic. Let me tell you what I'm doing. And see how you can give me some thoughts. And then we sit and talk about that. And then and understand that, do you understand? And then put in parentheses, my needs. I mean, Zig Ziglar said, he said to me one time, I'm having breakfast with him at Glen Eagles, and he says, what do you think of the quote, Bob? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I said, I love that quote. I wish I wrote that quote. And he says, it's 2 words short. And I go, really? Of course, this is why Zig Ziglar, right? He says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. Okay, so this is
bingo.
Bam. And so this is, do you understand my needs? So the question wouldn't you have done a homework on what it is that they're doing and how it is that you could all of a sudden get to the next tier, right? And so this is amazing. Now, the last one is, are you the best, put in parentheses, for me? Now, the first 2 gets to 94%. Now, we know this is true. We haven't talked about the technical piece. 94%. The reason that works is because references, endorsements, and testimonials are your greatest allies. So that kind of goes back to Zig Ziglar saying, if when you go out and you look for friends and you look for clients, you find they're very hard. But if you go out being a friend, they're everywhere. If you're willing and you're available to help other people when they're in time of need, I mean, time is not our enemy. Timing's our best friend. I mean, it's a paradigm. I'm available. And the answer is why? Because God's going to do something amazing. I mean, not many people talk about it, about this or that. And so if somebody gives you something, that should be like a clue to you, right? And so references, endorsements, and testimonials. But we also know it's true that 94 versus 6, because if talent, think about this, just talent. If talent was the reason people got jobs, we wouldn't have Congress and Senate. I mean, how'd they get their jobs? I mean,
right.
They're terrible. So here's the thing. How many people are listening know that there's people in their jobs above them that they think, how did they possibly get that job? And so the reason sometimes is they were just the right who at the right time. And my point is that God has a specific spot for you. Have you talked to him about it? And that's why I wrote the book, 2 Chairs, right? Is that, I mean, novel idea, 1 chair for you, 1 for God. You meet him in the morning, you get a minute to talk and he gets 4. I mean, so listening to God. I had this woman the other day on Facebook and she said, oh my gosh, I love this book, 2 Chairs, Bob. I just love it. She says, but listen, I've been talking to God, Bob, my whole life. She said, spoiler alert, I was supposed to be listening. If I got you with Warren Buffett, would you talk the whole time? Would you make him come over to your bed in your jammies? I mean, are we talking about the same person I am? I mean, if you got Zig Ziglar, I'm up, I got coffee made, I'm looking good, I'm ready. I didn't just I'm like, I want to be ready. And I think today we've made a big mistake about this. It's so much simpler. And so that's why, when my mom first said to me, I said to my mom, hey, so it was 1976 and I'm just, getting ready. I've got about 6 months before all of a sudden I'm going to graduate from SMU. And I said to her, I said, how do I find my goals and my dreams? And what do I do in times of trouble? And how would I find a mate? And today, now I know I have met so many people and they had a mate, it didn't work out. And now they're thinking, hey, could I ever have another mate? Is God ever going to do anything? And I said, it's interesting. I said, so what do I do with those? And she said, oh, those are really good questions. She goes, I don't have the answer, but I know who does. And so she says, can I ask you 3 questions? And that's what this book's really about. 3 questions and then 7 things to do in a time of struggle. And are we not in struggles every day? I mean, we're in a constant struggle. And so she said, and I'm going to ask you these 3 questions, and they're simple, but they're disruptive. And the question number 1, she says, is, do you think your current fact that you're looking for a job, you're looking for this, you're in trouble here, your business has gone downhill, who would I go to talk to? How would I find a coach? How would I do this? How would I do that? And my question is, do you think God knows that situation? And I said, yeah, I do. And she goes, good answer. She goes, not only does he know, but he wants you to know he knows. And so the highest priority in crisis thinking, and you do a lot of that, Johnny. I mean, that's what you're trained to sit with someone who's in a crisis, and you're going to help them get their mind above the crisis, and the highest thought is God. And so you bring spirituality and you bring business to it and you bring fun to it, and you're looking at them. And we're going to talk about some of that in a second, because I want to make sure I tell people the 5 things they should be looking for in a job. But hold it a second. Does he know? He does. God doesn't work like an old phone operator. You remember the old phone operators? They have these little plugs that they put in.
Right.
And so, I mean, he doesn't have that. He has he can talk to 8 billion people at the same time. And he doesn't work on pandemics and heart attacks and natural disasters. He's working on you. And so now the second question, is it too hard for him to help you get this out of this situation? Well, that's really, and they go, no. And they go, I know, but it's too hard for you. That's the problem. We're stuck. And so, again, why a coach is so unbelievable, right? Why a friend is so unbelievable. And we're talking about your life here. We're talking about radical areas that people could move their business and their life forward multiple steps, that people already have the answer for you, but you're too proud to ask them and say, I need help. And so the number one problem is we didn't have that first with God. And not only does he know, it's not too hard for him. The real third question that my mom asked me is does he have a good plan for you? And I said, yes. And she goes, what is it? And I go, I have no idea. She goes, bingo, 2 chairs. Wouldn't it be logical that you bring a chair in and you sit and talk to him? And so we treat God today like a flag. We talk at him. We know of him. We don't know him. But wouldn't it be good to have a conversation? I mean, the fact that we're all having a conversation and that we can sit in here and do this, it changes everything. So when all of a sudden I did that, and then she just said, hey, so for people today, if there's a 1% chance that the guy who created the whole world would meet you at your house, not somewhere else, that he'd come to your house and talk to you about your situation, about your trouble, and he has a plan, and it's good. It's not to harm you. It's good. It's prosperous. That means it's very successful. It's prosperous. It's better than good, right? That's the whole Zig Ziglar thought here. It's prosperous. It has a great future, and it has hope. And that's, of course, what I love about you is you're a merchant of hope. It's just who you are. So when people, so these 2 books have just gone crazy. The Power Who's now taught in 23 universities and going crazy, and every single day, and 2 chairs. I mean, someone bought 265,000 copies of two chairs to go to prisons, military, first responders, social services. Can you imagine being captive? If you're captive, you have nowhere to go, and you have two-chair book, and you can talk to the guy who created the whole world, and he's not mad at you. He's not mad he made you. He's not. He makes no mistakes. He, as Tom Ziglar used to say, he has no junk. He ain't got any of that. And so, I mean, Tom Ziglar's like one of the greatest. As soon as he found my first book, that's how we first got together, and he started immediately saying, "I have to declare my friends. Who's my 12? Who are they? Who are your 12? Have you gone through your Rolodex and your contact list and said, this is my best friend. This is my next two. I mean, Jesus had one best friend, okay, John. He had 3 close, and then he had 8 others, okay? And even one of those dumped him, because you're going to put some people into your who list that you've always said to yourself, how did they get on my list, right? But what I found is that the guy who's given me the most business in the history of my firm is not like a commissioner or a president of a team or somebody in sports or entertainment. I do business. I do big things in every other field. It was my golf pro, my local golf pro. How could he give me business? Well, he'd be out training someone. They're hitting terrible shots to the right. They're shanking the ball. They're duffing it. They're doing it. He goes, what's the matter? You're so good. And he goes, I just lost my president. I just lost my chief financial officer. I'm in trouble. And because he was such a power of who guy, he looked and goes, I know the guy. You got to use one of my best friends. He'd be unbelievable for you. And then they call me, and then he calls me and he says, hey, I got this guy calling to you. And I go, hold it a second. Did you just say my name? I mean, isn't that what friends would do? Listen, you got to use Johnny. I mean, I wouldn't use anybody else. I mean, it doesn't matter if my business that I got tires. You got to use Bob's tires. You gotta get Bob's plumbing. I mean, Bob's roofing. What's the difference? I mean, those guys, plumbing, roofers, and tires, they make more than us. They run businesses that are all based on solving problems, loving people. And that's what's so great. So I talked a lot. Let me throw it back to you.
No, like you said, if you sat down in front of Warren Buffett, shut up.
It's so funny.
We were talking about the 5 things that we needed to. Go ahead.
Okay, so listen. When you're trying to tell your son, your daughter, your grandkid, when you're trying to tell your best friend who's been in jobs and he's hated his jobs. I mean, we got 69% of the country who hate their jobs. Now that's almost 7 out of 10. We have 8 out of 10 that are not using their own talent. So this is stirring up such discord. And the whole point was, so God wants you to be ridiculous. You're supposed to do a job you love, with people you love, in a place you love, where your family loves it, and you get to do it for all the right reasons. And most people, they love the job, they hate the people. They love the people, they hate the job. They love the people, love the job, they hate the city, or their kids hate the area. And then if anything in your family, or you're doing it for the wrong reason, you're doing it for position, power, and money, trying to get the fruit of success, peace, happiness, and contentment. And of course, if financial security equal peace of mind, then the richest people be the most peaceful, right? Oops. And as soon as we get one nice thing, we want another nice thing. And we're never content. Why? Because God created us to do great and mighty things, not little things. You're created to do the one thing you were created to do. Every single person here, throw everything else in the trash. Networking does not work. This is about your who, the people who matter most. God and them. End of discussion. Everything else, trash. I am the leading search firm in the country in sports and entertainment. And I'm telling you, I'm only got my position because I sit at 2 chairs. All my success is sitting with God first, to get his wisdom for the day and to ask him and say, what could I do today to help you? What is it that I want? And the reason I can hear him so clear is I laid down all my cares. You can't hear if you're holding a care. So just follow the logic of this. So I'm sitting talking to you, and we're sitting, and all of a sudden I'm trying to hear you're talking about something, and I'm thinking about a problem with Rachel, one of my daughters. And then I'm thinking Allie, then I'm thinking grandkid, and now we have lost vision. I'm trying to be God over my troubles. So listen, we're talking about today. You can't accumulate yesterday and today, and we can't talk about this aspect of our future. We got enough trouble today. Let's make a list. Let's start a day first with God and say, good morning. How are you? My gosh, thank you for yesterday. I mean, I can't believe how great you are. You solved this. I can't believe it. It was just like, I got so many things to be thankful for. Then I say, hey, so I've got some real struggles on some jobs that I'm doing. And I got a struggle over here. My daughter really wants this. And a friend of mine's got surgery today. And I need this and this and this. And he goes, and I say, I know, first off, you're so fantastic. I'm just giving all that to you. And he goes, okay, so then I say, hey, did I give it all? And a lot of times he says no. And then I go in and I tell him the two other things I didn't want to tell him, which he already knew. And then I say, what is it that you have on your heart for me today? And you know what's interesting? He says, I got 4 people I'd like you to help. And I'm going to bring them to you.
Yeah.
It's not going to, he said, listen, are you available? And I said, of course. And he goes, I know you are. He says, but I wanted you to say it out loud because the time when it comes, it's going to be very inconvenient. But if you'll make time for my stuff, I'll take care of all of your stuff. When we seek first God, that's a promise then that he would add all these other things here. I mean, I just listened to something the other day. It was so fantastic. Tucker Carlson was interviewing the new president of El Salvador. And he turned to the president and he says, how could you turn around El Salvador? He's the new president. How did you turn this around? Prayer. And the guy, he says, prayer. And he goes, we'll talk about that. He goes, well, every single morning, first thing what I do is I seek God's wisdom. And he goes, did you just say that? And he goes, should I not say that? And he says, no, I would say that. And I believe you too. But I've never heard any president in the country. I've never heard anybody else say that out loud, that they're seeking God first. And of course, El Salvador's radically changing. Here's the thing. You want to radically change your life? 2 chairs. You want to change your entire business in this? There's an exchange. When I give God my trouble, he's giving me insight and then wisdom and power and peace and favor and joy. And then I've sat like, can you imagine? We're taking, the Ark of the Covenant and putting it in our house so we can have a conversation with the King of Kings, the Who of Who's. And then now the countenance, if you're ever in the presence of God, my face changes. You see how much energy I got. So the number one, so I'm coming to the 5 here, so don't think I haven't left them. But what happens is I all of a sudden am filled with energy and love, and I got time on my side. So everything bad that's ever happened to anybody listening has happened in 5 minutes or less. Everything good, 5 minutes or less. And you know what that means? That means that you and I can change one of our daughters, one of our friends, and help them in 5 minutes. It's stop, pause, pivot away from the trouble, and pray. The 3 P's, pause, pivot, pray, and let God get into your life. The moment you bring God into your house, listen to me, your family's going to be more successful. Okay, so let me hit this. So there's 5 things that you should look for in a job or a deal or anything that you're involved in. These are the 5 things. And 1, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. Number 1, I mean, it's about people. So I'm not going to go to just work for anywho. I'm going to have to study them and do some research to see if this person's a person who of faith, a person who cares about people, a person who's really on top of things and loves you. He doesn't like you. He loves you. I mean, that's just going to be successful. Number 2. So number 2 is that, hey, he gives you good tools or she gives you good tools. What's a tool? I want benefits. I want to make sure I have a staff. I can get anything I need done. But the biggest tool of all is that they let you do your job. They empower you to do the job. How many jobs are people in where they really can't have no decision-making capability? They never feel like they're listened in their job. No one cares about them. No one says, great job, Rachel, unbelievable. I'm so proud of you. And so this is like big. Number 3, don't take a job if it doesn't work for your family. Listen, God's really good at this. He can find you the right people. He can get you to get the right aspect of the tools, and he can get you where each of your family members loves it. Success is geographical. So don't just say, I'm going to move my family anywhere I really want. The answer is, when God's involved, it works for everybody. It's really good. And so that also means that you can work in a job that says, I mean, if you work for me, I mean, I'm not your boss. I'm trying to help you be better. I mean, that's the great thing about Johnny is he's not trying to do it. He's trying to listen. He's trying to discern what it is you're doing. He wants to immediately hear what your passion is. He wants to hear where all of a sudden you get excited and you come alive. And then he's going to tell you how to actually get that as your life. And all of a sudden do it. I mean, this is what Zig Ziglar and Tom Ziglar and everything about their lives promote. It's what Howard Partridge and all these people who are out teaching and you know, it's just David Wright and Kanye. I mean, these are people that are unbelievable. Sherry Perry, everybody who graduates in this program is just turning lives around in neighborhoods and this. And everybody needs a friend. Pity the person who doesn't have a coach, a friend, a mentor, or somebody. So here are the 5. Now listen, go where you're celebrated. I'm not going anywhere where I'm not celebrated. Okay. Number 2, I got tools. 3, it's good for my family. Number 4, you want a legacy. You want to know that we're going to win a championship. Where are we going? A leader tells you, here's the plan, and this is what we're trying to reach. And with you, I think we can do it. And when I know where the goal is, then I'm constantly trying to take us to the goal line. If I don't know where we're going, if you don't know where you're going, you're going to end up someplace else. I mean, that's just Yogi Berra at his best. And so the last one is, you ought to be paid well. Not just paid, but you should be paid on incentive for whatever it is. You should be bonused in some direction of equity or something, a part of something. And so I tell people all the time, like my daughter, my oldest daughter, Allie, I mean, she went to school. She didn't really find what she was doing. She got married. She all of a sudden was this, but she's a power who and 2 chairs nut. And so she just kept praying that God would open her mind and do it. And so she started 11 years ago, and she's became an Instagram influencer. And she's in Instagram. Everybody should like friend her. She's just unbelievable. It's called the Downtown Alley, ALY, the Downtown Alley. And the reason she's so good, she tells you how to make your life easier in everything, in the house, in your garage, in your clothes, in your health, in your food. How will life be easier? And so my only point is, she started out and took something small and then built it, and now has like close to 700,000 people following her. And so she's a Megatron, and she does it genuinely. She loves it. Her husband is involved with it, and he's successful in his own right. And so my point is, it's just amazing. She decided, hey, she'd create a new job. You know, you can do that. You can start your own business like Allie did. You could start it. You could have, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's so many great things. But if you aren't celebrated in your life, you got to let God celebrate you first and give you a plan. You got to have a coach. You got to have a coach then in your deal. Everybody has a coach. So I tell people the most important thing I can ever tell you is to have a personal board of directors. Okay, so personal board is your mom or your dad to take one slot, because when you honor your mom or your dad, there's a promise in the Bible. It's one of the 10 commandments is you honor them, you get long life and great health. I don't know about you, but there's 27,365 days in an average man's life. And a lot of people here who are young listening to this or in this process don't care about that. I do. I only have like 2,000 left. And I want long life and great health. And so I'm not going by based on averages. I mean, I'm believing that God has for each of us an assignment, a purpose, and a destiny. And I got to know what that is. And mine is it's involved in the jobs you're doing because listen, as a dad, you're the pastor of your house. Is mom, you're the spiritual leader. I mean, women are so amazing. They have such a sixth sense about what goes on. I mean, my wife and she's my best friend. She's my number one who. And I mean, if she didn't like something, I'm not doing that. And so I'm trying to help her. We couple well. She's so much better at things. I mean, she can rewire our house. She can do anything in this. I mean, I'd get electrocuted. I mean, I can't get on the top of the house. She'd get up on top of the roof. I'd fall. She can just do things, but she doesn't want to get up in front of, 30,000 people and give a talk either. Here's the thing. God has made you ridiculously special. And sometimes those are hidden inside you, and the enemy has got strongholds to keep you from feeling like you should be even blessed. Listen, stop that. Go over to 2 chairs. He's going to end that. I can eliminate that in 5 minutes in the presence of God. Changes all your best laid plans, changes all your past, changes all your future, and everything does. And then number 2 is he gave you the power of who? He gave you people that are already in your life that you just didn't think, hey, how could my friend a dentist help me? I don't know. Dentists have a lot of friends. I mean, it was like my golf pro. He introduces me to a guy. I said, how would you? I said, so are you sending me Joe Blow? Just like I do big jobs. And he goes, the guy's the president of CBS. And I go, you've been friends with the president of CBS and you didn't tell me? and the guy's just giving me. And my whole point is, you have no idea what your wife does. A little story. I'm doing a talk for Cal Riverside, the university. I did it to their 400 student athletes. And when I finished, I said, hey, if you want me to sign your book afterwards, and I said, you can tell me your dream. And then in a minute and a half, I'll change the trajectory of your dream. And so they all give applause. The athletic director comes over to me and goes, so listen, they've been working out a lot. It's 7:00. They did all this stuff. And he says, don't be mad if they don't get in line. I said, you're going to have to turn around. There's 400 people in line. They're talking about their dream, bud. Everybody wants to talk about it. The first girl comes up. She says to me, hey, and I said, what's your name? Mary. Fantastic. Mary, what's the dream? I said, first off, what's the sport you do? I'm captain of the soccer team. And I said, so what's the dream? Oh, I don't know, Mr. Beaudine. Have you heard that a bunch of times, Johnny, when people come talk to you? Hey, I don't know what I'm really good at.
Absolutely.
And you turned and so you turned to him and I turned to him and I say, sure you do. It's written on your heart. And so she says to me, oh, I don't know. And I said, well, there's 399 people behind you, and I'm going to wait until you tell me. And boom, she blurts it out. Isn't that interesting? I said, wow. So I give her a tip. I give her a couple of tips. She goes home to Chicago. And in 2 days, she sends me a note on Facebook and says, oh, my gosh, I need to tell you my who story. We get on the phone. I go, Mary, hey, how's it going? She goes, you won't believe it. I said, sure, I will. And so she goes, did I ever tell you that I was always embarrassed that my mom plays bridge? And I go, are you talking like the card game? And she goes, yeah. And I go, why? She goes, crony, mom should get a job. I'm working hard. I'm playing this. I'm doing this. I'm da-da-da-da-da-da. And she goes, and then I get up. I slept late for the first time. I coming down the stairs. And then guess what? It's 11:30. They're playing bridge. And so I'm sneaking by. And Mrs. Robinson, one of my mom's friends, says, Mary, get in here. And she goes, oh, I'm just going to get some cereal. No, get in here. And so she comes in. What are you going to do now that you graduated? She goes, oh, I don't know, Mrs. Robinson. And Mrs. Robinson says, sure you do. It's written on your heart. She goes, do you know Mr. Beaudine? And he goes, no, I don't know him. And she goes, so what are you going to do? And she goes, okay, I'm going to tell you. Okay. And so everyone's listening. And she goes, so this guy, Mr. Beaudine, who gave the talk, said, if I would declare my dream to the people I was given, something supernatural and magical happens that God can only provide. And so I'm going to tell you what's on my heart. I want to be in pharmaceutical sales. And so her mom goes, you never said you wanted to be in pharma. I know, Mom, I'm declaring. And she said, so when I was with Mr. Beaudine, he said, talk specifically. And she said, well, there's 5 companies in Chicago, and Mr. Beaudine knew one of them and gave me a person he knows to introduce me to. My uncle is in the business. He knows someone. And the 3 biggest companies, I've started to do research and to find out who it is. Then I'm going to ask the people who I was given in life. Mrs. Robinson goes, wow, that's really amazing. She goes, so Mary, have you met my bridge partner, Eleanor? And she goes, no. Eleanor, why don't you tell Mary what your husband does? She goes, he's the president and CEO of Abbott Labs, which is the largest in Chicago. So are you kidding me? So she says, Mr. Beaudine, the next day, because women tell their husbands what to do, I have an interview with her husband, who he says treats me totally different because it's a who thing. He doesn't really ask me. He's talking to me. He's just talking about personal qualities. We're talking about fun. And he turns to me and stops. And he said, we only been talking for like 12 minutes. And he says, listen, why don't you just come to work specifically for me personally, be my, shadow me for 6 months. And then I'll put you in any country in the world that you'd want to be next. And he hired her for $30,000 more than anybody else who's normally at the stage that they first came in. And she goes, so Mr. Beaudine, let me just make sure I say this out loud. Was the power who always in my living room all along? Yes. Your acres of diamonds. If you haven't seen and read this book, I mean, it's unbelievable. Your treasure is in your own backyard with the people you were already given in life. God makes no mistakes by your friends. Even though I had a woman one time on the BBC said, well, what if all your friends are losers, Bob? And I said, come on, Stephanie. I said, your friends have friends, and everyone goes through a season at one time when their life isn't doing great. And that's why friends pick them up and we all rise to higher levels. We create a who group. I get 2 of my other friends, we all sit down and we talk just like you do as you coach. I'm going to put all your dreams up on the board. I'm going to get a plan and we're going to organize it. And then bam, you see them and they're rocking through. She turns to me and she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, I got a revelation for you. Mary says to me, and I go, what's that? I need to learn bridge. Now, listen, we can't make up this story. And so my point of today is to stop and tell people all my success in life. If I could, so I get to place the biggest people in the world in jobs. And if I could place you somewhere and you think, Bob, boy, I got to know the power of Bob. It's not a power of Bob. And oh my gosh, you know, what's God going to tell me at 2 chairs? I didn't write 3 chairs. I don't get to go. The greatest placement I could put you first is wake up early and meet with God. Become the daughter and son of the King, because that's who you are. That's whose you are. That's the path you were called. You know it because you knew him before the foundation of the world. And so it's just going to dawn on you that, oh my gosh, what have I been doing? So I want to tell you this. You're not late. You're not early. You're not too old. You're not too young. You're right on time. If you were supposed to hear this message before this, you would have. But now most people who are billionaires make it after 65, 67 billionaires. So, I mean, dang it. And no one, you know, you've got lots ahead. And so I'm only saying is that this is a timely message. Can you make room for this message first? Because the world doesn't want you to get there. We don't want you to see like, hey, oh my gosh. They don't want you to see who you are because that makes you very powerful. And if you know who you are, these are qualities that people want to be around. Everybody, it's a magnet of success for you when you're confident and you're thinking about other people and you already believe that God's got your best hand and everything's good already. I mean, all that's really good. And so second is, can you imagine that he's already given you all the people to help you get that? That they were already planned before the foundation of the world, that these people are going to give it to you? So you were thinking, hey, I should call Johnny and have him coach me because that was on your thought. Then do it. What could you possibly not do that could all of a sudden change the entire trajectory? One person can change the other person's in less than 5 minutes. And this is just staggering. It takes you to places you've always wanted to go. But listen to me, I haven't had the best life. I haven't done this. Listen, who has? Stop. We're all sinners saved by grace. God wants to do it. He's not coming back to do it again. He's not dying again. He's done it once and for all. And he has good plans for you.
Right.
Sit down and talk to him. Number two is he's got all the people. And when you understand this, everything changes. It changed for me. I mean, my whole life, I can't even begin to tell you. It's all the success stories. I mean, I have as you know, I have 4 billion stories that can just do something that I can tell you story after story after story about every single person and all the people's lives that are all changed. And I have people who send me notes and say, hey, I made $37 million on the power of who, and I got this. And I'm thinking, I say, are you a coach? Maybe I should come to you. I said, but all our friends, the number one thing today is help other people make their dreams come true. Love the people around. And my number one advice on Father's Day is to lay hands on your kid, okay? Immediately lay hands on your kids and say, oh, I love you. It's an Abrahamic message. I love you. I'm proud of you. And I'm giving you my blessing. The moment you do, kids walk into their calling immediately. I mean, the Jewish faith, it's just so spectacular. They do this as a tradition every night. And I don't know what the heck we were all not doing. I mean, thinking is that less than 1% of Jewish men are in prison. Less than, 0.005% or something goes down the line for women. And so our kids, today, when they have a dad who says that, suicide goes out. And if dads are home and loving on their kids and doing it, the greatest day is to be just fishing with your kid. Why? It's not fishing. It's being with my kid. It's passing on all the stuff, getting my kids to understand that, hey, I'm going to always be there for you. I'll never, ever, you're my main priority in life. I'm going to help you everywhere you do. You could never get in trouble that I would never help you. And that's why I tell dads, if you have daughters, that at about age 15, you're going to start to say, hey, listen, you're my best friend. As quickly as I can say that starting after 10, in anything in this early side, because I just see you as dad, but they got to see you as dad and friend. Because otherwise, when trouble comes, they won't tell you because they don't want to disappoint their dad, but they tell their best friend. And so I can alleviate a lot of pressure in this process. In this world, there's trouble. I don't care what troubles ever happened. I won't let you go. I won't let a friend go. I won't do anything. And I believe that the God who we have are going to be able to do great and mighty things in your life, no matter what's going on. I don't care. I mean, we're just going to rewrite the story. And I have big stories in my life, with, grandsons and all my stuff that's happened in our lives of trouble that just are radical.
Wow. I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell my wife. Y'all need to have a whole separate book on the stories of the lives that you've impacted because they're so transformational. And even if you change the names to protect the innocent, other people need to hear these stories of transformation. And so I don't know who is out there watching and listening, and I don't know how, this will go on for forever in infamy in social media world. But if and when, you nailed it right on the head, right? Timing is our best friend.
Yeah.
And so whoever you are, you're one decision away. You're one who you already know that person. Just ask, right? Ask and you shall receive.
You'll receive.
Seek.
You'll find. It's knock. Sometimes you got to keep knocking. I tell people, listen, it takes 5 times to call on someone to get their piece of business. 50% of Americans quit after the first call. What? They were busy. Okay, 30% quit after the third. 10% quit after the fourth. Only 10% go for the gold. I thought can you imagine how this? So I found out there were 2 people in my client list that I had called on 4 times and quit. So I immediately flew out to meet them. I told them, I said, I just read this book. It said, if I call on you 5 times, I get your piece of business. They said, I hope this isn't our 5th time. I came away with $247,000 worth of business in 2 calls. So my point is this, listen, we're never quitting. I never quit on friends. I'm never quitting on business because I'm all in on my clients. I care. I don't just try to do. So just so you understand, is leadership is personal. So I'm not just in on this. I'm in on the whole piece, anything we could do.
All right, guys. Let's see here. Got a little transmission. Is there a timeline on this thing? I don't know. We were going and going, Bob. I don't know what happened. We got the interruption.
They probably yanked it because most people do.
Transmission got interrupted. Whatever happened, I don't know if it was on my end or your end. But guys, you guys have already heard. We'll see if he comes back on here in just a little bit. But you guys have already heard. You know what we're gonna do? If he comes back on, great. But if not, guys, next week. I hope you guys have had your pen and paper handy, because there are some rider downers that Bob has dropped on you guys, and it has been amazing. It's incredible. So I want you guys to be able to, next week, we're going to take them, we're going to unpack them, we're going to see how far we can go with this, because you already know somebody. They're probably in your contact list. They're probably already in your phone. And all you have to do is ask. All you have to do is ask. I mean, even Mark Batterson, right? I like reading a lot of his books. We're finishing up the book Soul Print in our family book club that we do on Sunday nights. And he just simply said, you got to have a God-sized goal so big that it's destined to fail without divine intervention. And so we're going to give Bob a little bit more time, guys. We typically go about 40, 45 minutes, but I did not want to interrupt Bob. I wanted to keep on Bob. I wanted to keep Bob coming in. If he wanted to go, I was going to let him go. I'm going to just shoot him a quick chat real quick. So anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for being with us here today. We're going to go ahead and just call that a wrap. Let's see. Oh, maybe he is coming on here. Maybe yes, maybe no. That's all right. Hey, no biggie.
Ryan.
You know what, guys? Everything happens for a reason. And so I want to make sure that you guys just know how appreciative and how thankful I am for you guys to have come on here and have been with us here today, because there is nothing more impactful than for you to do what you love, right? We talked about it. Do what you love so much that you'd be willing to do it for free. Do it so well that people will pay you for it. And so, guys, we're gonna have to have Bob on here. We might just have him as a weekly guest or a monthly guest or something. Anyway, guys, hey, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Appreciate you. If you have any questions, definitely don't hesitate to reach out to me. Hey, listen, we're still looking for 2 more clients. You heard everything that Bob was talking to you guys about. We want to be able to help you guys be more, do more, and have more in this playground of life. And this whole FuNLiFe community, it's all powered by the master negotiator, master trainer, master speaker, master motivator himself, Mr. Zig Ziglar, and his proud son, Tom Ziglar. Thank you guys so much. Hey, this has been Johnny Juan from the Waco remote studios here on the Brazos River. Thank y'all guys so much. Appreciate you. Love you. Adios.